Hey, Cosmic Witches, and welcome back to the Divine Gossip Girls podcast. Thank you so much for choosing to tune in to today's episode. And we're really excited to be diving into today's episode where we're going to be chatting all around connecting more to the intuition of your body, to the messages of your body, because I feel like a lot of us live very disconnected from our beautiful bodies that hold so much incredible wisdom. So we're going to be diving into all of that and having a conversation about maybe some of the struggles of, your body maybe not matching up to the expectations of how you want it to be operating or how you want your energy to be operating, and how to dive more into connecting to the wisdom that's trying to come through, and how you can take some action in terms of listening versus pushing against or getting really frustrated and mad at your body for just trying to communicate with you what it is that you really need. So before we dive into today's episode, I do just want to shout out our Divine Gossip Girls hotline. So in future episodes, we're going to be answering your guys' questions around spiritual mindset, just daily life, or cosmic questions that you guys have. So we are looking for more questions to be sent to us so that we can do a whole episode around that. So what you can do is just go ahead and email a divine question over to divinegossipgirls@gmail.com, and it will be listed in the show notes before. Once again, any questions at all related to spirituality, mindset, wellness, whatever it is, maybe just moving through something. If you want advice, we're here to support you, and we'll do a whole episode on it. These will remain completely anonymous. All questions will be anonymous unless you ask to have your name be told in the episode. It will stay anonymous. So we would love to receive some of your questions, and we are excited to answer them in a future episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's episode.
Hey Cosmic Witches! Divine Gossip Girls here, your one and only source into the spiritual happenings of the cosmos.
Ever wonder what this month's energy will have in store for you? What the planets and stars are even up to? Or if the universe can just help you catch a break already?
Well, lucky you, because we have all the spiritual secrets to tell. Get ready to sip on your weekly dose of divine tea. All right, love. So I really wanted to bring this topic to the Divine Gossip Tea Table because over the course of the past, I guess forever, honestly, I want to say this has been a forever kind of thing. I have really struggled with my body and listening to my body. For those of you that are not familiar with the background of my healing and spiritual journey, I struggled ever since I was 11 with an eating disorder. So I really had a strong hatred towards my body and was very, very disconnected from my body, always living within the mind, always trying to, logic my way through every single thing. And although the mind is incredible and very powerful, the truth is that our bodies hold so much wisdom and we live so disconnected from them. We never, when we're, especially in the West, at least, whenever we're experiencing pain or something, our first reaction is to just pop a pill, which totally, totally good. I get it. It helps. But sometimes there is wisdom that's trying to come through the signs or the messages that our body's giving us. So over the past year, I've really moved through a period of learning to listen to my body a little bit more and learning to connect to the wisdom of my body and how to connect to the messages, and just taking a pause before I actually do take an action, asking my body, what is it that we maybe want to eat for dinner? Or maybe why is it that I woke up today and I'm feeling terrible? What would feel good for me to do, versus just right away shifting into that energy of F you, why can't you just work properly and have energy all the time and never get sick? And I know you guys have a lot to share as well, as just humans moving through this experience and living with bodies. So we'd love to know from you guys your experiences of connecting more with your body and learning how to connect with your intuitive messages.
Even before I really dove super deep into my spiritual journey, I feel like I've just like constantly struggled with health stuff, like whether it was chronic strep throat and I got my tonsils out at 22, which would not recommend unless you're really, really in need of it, like I was, because it sucks. And, or, I had a low grade carbon monoxide poisoning from my car, and that was something I had to learn through. Or, the problems I've been going through more recently with my thyroid. I think the biggest thing I have learned is that, like, you are your biggest advocate and you're your body's biggest advocate, and you know when something's wrong. And a big hurdle I have had to overcome in my journey is like being told it was just in my head or that it was my mental health. Like having a doctor, I was literally getting poisoned by my car and I didn't know. And I was breathing in carbon monoxide every, like, exhaust that didn't smell like exhaust. Like I was breathing in carbon monoxide every time I turned on my car for like 5 minutes. And going to the doctor, and the doctor basically telling me that I was lazy and that I was depressed and I should go to therapy. I got a note written that said to do yoga twice a week, go for a massage, and to go to therapy. She literally put her hand on my shoulder and was like, it's hard, but sometimes you just have to get off the couch. And I was like, oh, I'm
No.
exhausted.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Because I went to the doctor and I said, hey, I'm so tired. Like, I do anything that's active. Like, I used to be a very active person. I do any sort of activity, and I feel like I have the flu for days. And it's because my body was not getting enough oxygen. And instead, I was like sent to therapy and I was told to like work out and things that, aren't going to help because I'm not getting enough oxygen. And I remember like getting out into the car and Joel picked me up and I think thought the doctor told me something was horribly wrong because I'm like bawling my eyes out. And he's like, what did the doctor say? And I was like, absolutely nothing. And it's so frustrating because I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, maybe I am just crazy. And I have times where I would think like maybe it's all in my head, but I knew like there was a deep part of me that knew that something wasn't right because I could feel it in my body. I'm like, this is not just all in my head. This is not just something that I'm not doing right. Like my energy knew something was deeply wrong. I was literally being poisoned. And it's the same with my thyroid. Thyroid things can take so long to get diagnosed when you live in the same country, let alone popping all over the place. So sometimes, certain things come up and it's like, maybe it's just for the longest time, the doctor was just trying to tell me that my heart palpitations that come from my thyroid were just anxiety. And I was like, it doesn't feel like anxiety because it doesn't happen when I have anxiety. Like I could have the most anxiety induced thing and then nothing happens. But 2 months later, I'm perfectly fine and I'm getting heart palpitations. And once again, I had to like dig my feet in and be like, I know myself, I know my body, I know my mind, I know my energy, and something is wrong. And so, yes, this isn't as maybe woo-woo as we normally speak, and it's not necessarily learning things through like what my body is telling me, but at the same time it's like I had to trust my energy and my intuition of like
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, even though like having that experience, like you shouldn't have had that experience and you shouldn't have been knocked down that way, but it's giving you like such an opportunity to deepen your trust in your body and know it on that deeper level, and like strengthen that connection like each day and each time, being like, I'm not going to allow anybody outside of me to tell me like what is wrong with me, because I know my body and I know that something's wrong and something's not right, and that doesn't feel right, and I know there's something deeper. And I feel like there is some sort of like beauty in that, because you have been able to like connect deeper to your body and what it actually is asking and what it actually is screaming at you.
And I think it's allowed me to like realize not just to stand up for myself, but to start to stand up for other people
Yeah,
more and be like, if
exactly.
you feel like something
You
is wrong,
stand
whether
up
it's
so
in,
much for me when it comes to my body as well. Like when going to the doctors and stuff, and you're like, I will come with you. Take me
yeah,
and put me on your phone, and I will be there with you.
Put me on FaceTime.
I do that. I'm like, put me on FaceTime. I'll like go to appointments in person with people. Like, I remember my sister had pneumonia and we knew, well, like walking pneumonia, and we knew because she got it from me. And the doctor just kept being like, no, 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 no. And she's like in pain, like hacking up a lung. And I was like, you need an inhaler. You need medication. And I finally just was like, bring me in there. And I was like, give her medication, give her an inhaler. Because I was like, this is not okay that like you have a problem and because of
You're not
their own
getting help.
biases and you're not getting help when you know what's wrong. Like you need to trust that. And whether that's health or whether that's something else, like when something doesn't feel right and when the energy feels off. And rather than like always being like, oh, they don't mean it, or oh, you don't have to be aggressive, but it's like you need to be the one to stand up for yourself. And that's why I stand up so hard for other people and I try and stand up for myself as well, because it's like, this is the energy's not right and you need to stand in that and trust yourself.
Well, and I feel like we put like honestly the way that we view our bodies and our health is like so much of our health we place into the hands of others. And I think that that in itself is a big reflection of how we've been seen to, I guess, like where we see the power of our bodies, we place it into the hands of others. And so anytime that we're feeling, under the weather or we feel like something's going on, like physically, mentally, spiritually, we always outsource to a doctor or like a practitioner, which like, yes, they can help, but a lot of times like we believe that if they don't see anything that we must just be making it up, we must just be crazy. But the truth of it is that a lot of times when you go to the doctor, once again they're looking at it through their own bias, or they're looking at it from a clinical perspective. And a lot of times what we've got going on may be subclinical. It may be something that is, especially for people that are very spiritual, we are super, like, I mean, crazy attuned to what's going on in our bodies. If we have something going on, we're going to feel it. Like our bodies react. That's why a lot of times, like the people that spiritually awaken, they start to have weird reactions to like alcohols or processed like sugars and foods, because your energy isn't aligning with those kind of things. So if you go to a doctor and you start to say, oh, I don't know what's going on here, like they'll just be like, oh, like, I mean, nothing's wrong. Maybe try meditating. Like literally, you guys. And this
That's
is
actually
why.
so funny you say that because like I don't drink as often anymore, but when I do, like my
Mhm.
body doesn't like it. Like even after three like drinks, I'm like do not feel good at all. So that's funny you said that because I've never, because I don't drink as often. I haven't questioned it or I haven't like thought too much into it. I just thought, oh, I'm getting older.
Well, and
Can't handle it quite as much.
it's the physical symptoms of spiritual ascension. Like no one talks about how the more spiritually awakened you become, the more sensitive your physical body becomes as well. And things that are just not resonating with the vibration you have grown into will cause you more adverse reactions. So, I mean, it makes so much sense. And I just want to say for anyone that has ever been to a doctor and has been gaslit, which I'm pretty sure it could be every person, whatever you are going to and expressing genuine concerns about, like there's something going on here, whether it is spiritual, whether it is physical, whether it is mental, like there is something going on. If something feels wrong, that's your experience and that is so valid. I was going to the doctor for I think 2 to 3 years, telling them that I was experiencing hormonal issues. Every single doctor I went to would gaslight me. They would say, oh, you're fine, you're just young and your hormones are changing. We're not going to do blood work, blah 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 blah. And finally, this past year, I went to a doctor and I was like, my hair is freaking falling out. I have crazy migraines all the time. Like, I don't have a regular, like, cycle. And the doctor was finally like, well, fine, we'll run blood work, but I'm sure it's all going to look fine. And it comes back that I have PCOS. And I'm like, part of me was very happy, but then the other part of me, like to finally have something to be like, oh my God, something like I should have been listening to my body all along, other than every time going into the doctor being like, all right, yeah, they said I'm fine. And then going back home and crying again 3 weeks later because I'm experiencing these terrible symptoms. And I just felt like extreme frustration and anger that no one had ever listened to me, but at the same time feeling completely lost because yes, I figured this out, but now what? Because there's not really a one way street to like learning how to heal your body. And so what I've learned over these past few months really of going down this journey is like your body really does hold so much wisdom. And something that I started to do is just asking my body when I'm experiencing a migraine, when I'm experiencing something, and kind of just dropping into meditation and like moving a little bit or doing some, I don't even know what I do. I just kind of sit there and I ask my body, like, what is it that you need? And there's always something that kind of arises to the surface, whether it's like I just start crying or I, get like a food that comes to mind, like an orange, or like randomly I think like, oh, zinc or some sort of weird mineral. Your body will begin to communicate with you, but we've just become so far removed from trusting in our own ability to listen to our bodies and placing it into someone else that is like, we don't even give ourselves the option to first ask ourselves before we outsource.
And even if it's not like you're so in tune that your body, you'll be like, oh, zinc and orange.
It
Like,
didn't start that way.
no, but your
It took
body's
a lot of time.
communicating, right? Like for me, one of the problems with my thyroid is that it puts me into adrenal fatigue. So basically, like once my heart rate reaches a certain amount, or once like my adrenaline starts pumping to a certain amount, it like doesn't know how to stop. And I only found this because I was saying to, I think it was like to my mom, I was like, yeah, I get to this point and it feels like my adrenaline won't stop. Like I can feel the adrenaline pumping through my arms and I'm just like sitting there watching TV, like doing something that adrenaline should not be pumping anymore, but it just won't stop. And I said, I feel like then I feel so drained. And that's when I get like the heart palpitations because they were so confused because I was showing signs of hypothyroidism, which means you're not producing enough of the thyroid, whatever, like the thing your thyroid is supposed to produce. And I had a lot of those symptoms, but I also had heart palpitations, which is a sign of hyperthyroidism, which is producing too much. And they went, the doctors are going, how is this possible? And I was saying to my mom, I just feel like I get so drained. And so she started looking up adrenal fatigue and it was like, okay, so when that happens, it saps all your electrolytes. One of your electrolytes is potassium. When your potassium gets too low, you get muscle spasms, which causes heart palpitations. So it was like all my symptoms were there and my body was trying to tell me through its symptoms exactly what the problem was, right? It's like, okay, the potassium's not the root problem, but it's the root problem to a lot of my secondary symptoms. So if I can start to supplement my potassium, at least that's like a step in the right direction. But if I hadn't listened to my body, and if I had just been like, oh yeah, I get heart palpitations, weird, don't know why, and I didn't like look at that chain of events and listening to like the story that my body was telling me of like how we get to this point, I never would have figured it out. And yeah, I could take medication. I'm allergic to the medication, so I can't. So it's like, okay, what do I need to do? Because obviously I can't just live with heart palpitations. So how can I listen to my body and start to supplement it and start to work with it? Like I get a certain feeling and then I'm like, okay, I need to stop because my body's going to start pumping too much adrenaline. And I'm like, I need to listen to my body because I'm the only one who can. Nobody else can be like, you're about to go into like too much adrenaline, stop. Like you need to start to listen to those cues. And by not saying don't go to the doctor because, I also want to get on the right medication to probably help me, but also like going to doctors, going to naturopaths, they help, but they are not hearing the same cues that you are. And sometimes you need to take that into consideration, whether that's physical or like whether that's your mental health. And you're like, oh my gosh, I get onto this huge spiral. What is it that's triggering me? How can, yes, I'm going to go maybe get medication or talk to doctors, but also like looking at it and being like, I know the result of this. I know what puts my body into flight or into fight more than anybody else. So, like, how can I start to listen to what my body, what my mind is doing?
I feel like my journey with my body is like been slightly different to both you guys because obviously both of you have struggled with like health issues with your thyroid, with your tonsils, with your eating disorder, with your PCOS. Whereas for me, yeah, I have an underlying heart condition, but the biggest thing for me in which how it affected my body as I was growing up. There's two when we brought up this topic to talk about, I was like, okay, there's two things for me that feel like alive for me to share because the past 2 years I've been on a kind of deeper journey with my body and like tapping into it on a deeper level, working with my nervous system, expanding my nervous system. I'm actually in a membership called Body Talk and really starting to work with my body on that deeper level, like communicate with my nervous system, shift my nervous system. But the biggest thing for me, like the first kind of deeper connection to my body was with my underlying heart condition. So obviously when I was born, I had a underlying heart condition. I had no pulmonary artery or any holes in my heart. I had holes in my heart. And it's funny because my experience with like doctors growing up was actually pretty good because I had a good team of doctors when I was in hospital for my big open heart surgery. And my mum, as I was growing up, was always praising the doctors because they were really good with me, really good at supporting me. However, that was like 22 years ago, to be fair. But something that I had noticed like growing up was my distrust in my body because I felt like because I had my heart condition, that meant I was weaker than other people, that my body couldn't handle the things other people could handle, like working out or fitness or pushing myself to different extremes. And I held a lack of trust in my body. I shut it down. I didn't believe in it. I didn't think it was capable of a lot of things because if I did, then it couldn't handle it. My heart couldn't handle it. My body couldn't handle it. And these past few years, as I've been on my own spiritual journey, my own healing journey, it's been coming back to the fact that actually it doesn't make me weak, it makes me stronger. Having my heart condition and fighting for my life and actually surviving and being where I am and doing all that I'm doing actually makes me so much more stronger, actually makes my body so much more stronger. And shifting that belief system within my nervous system has been completely life changing for me because it just completely shifts everything for you. Like I don't like hold myself back or limit myself in ways I used to because of the belief that, I can't handle it as much as others. My body can't handle that. I can't do those things because my body can't handle it. Whereas actually my body is far more capable than I have ever gave it credit for, and really starting to shift that within me. That's
another example of me coming and advocating for you, like me coming to Scotland and being like, you can do Pilates.
Yeah. So
I love that.
I had like such a massive fear of working out and doing fitness because I just like my chest just was just like it will explode. Like my heart will just explode. I cannot handle that. But actually fitness and cardio is so prominent and important for me to do to stay healthy and to stay fit. And it was Maggie that like pushed me to be like, no, let's work out together. And
then we're walking around Edinburgh.
Oh my god, remember that.
She's like, how can you walk right now?
I was literally walking. I was walking as if I fucking shat myself.
I feel like it's so true though, because what gets in the way of our bodies just being so fucking powerful is our minds. Half the time it's our mind that's like, no, I can't do that. Or like we start comparing our bodies to other people's. And then all of a sudden our mind gets in the way of our body just like performing as it could.
And that's why I've been like the membership that I'm a part of, and like all the practices that I am kind of channeling and creating for my clients and my membership are embodiment practices to get us out of the head, out of the ego, and into the heart and into the body, because
Yeah,
that was a
that's
massive thing
powerful.
for me, because I was living so much in my ego and so much in my head because I was scared of connecting to my heart and to my body. And it's been something that's really transformed so much for me. And yes, obviously I'm a Leo. I'm a human, and I will sometimes creep into the head, creep into the ego. But by being able to give yourself permission and the opportunity to dance, to move, to tap into your body, can shift so much. Like even this afternoon, I kind of got frustrated with a few things and kind of got overwhelmed with a few things. And I literally just put a song on and just danced and moved with it. And it just shifted so much. And I could come back into my body, kind of settle my nervous system, and just be like, okay, we're all good, and let's like come out of the head and
I
back into
love
the
that.
body, because that's where everything can start to shift.
Well, and that it reminds me too, like there's so much because we're so in the mind, our body stores so much energy. And oftentimes when the energy in our body is really chaotic and really heavy, our natural reaction is to go into the mind. So that's why a lot of times when we've experienced trauma or a really negative relationship to our body, so many of us like don't know what it feels like to have an experience where you're like embodied, where you're not just always in the mind. And that's what I experienced growing up as well, was like always being in the mind. And something that I remember was I had chronic insomnia, you guys. I mean, like I would go months without sleeping. I'd probably sleep like 2 hours a night for like 4 months on end and not know what was going on. And it was kind of like a trauma response. And I think more and more people struggle with insomnia now because we're so up in the minds, like so wired by social media and like blue light, and like we're just all over the place. But what I notice has shifted. Like I sometimes still experience insomnia now if I'm moving through like more anxiety or something. But what really shifted in that period was me becoming more like doing more practices that allowed me to be in the body, especially later at night, so that I could release that like pent up energy in my body. And so that I could sleep sound at night. Because if like insomnia is a result of having so much energy stored in our physical and mental bodies that it's like hard for us to hit the pillow. So starting to do little things like tapping before bed was one of the ways that I shifted my insomnia, which no wonder, because tapping helps to like cleanse the nervous system. And our nervous system is like one of the places that makes our bodies so powerful and hold so much wisdom. Like that's in yoga, that's where your prana is. It's in your nerves, it's in your nervous system. So like just doing tappings and things like Sophie said, dancing. I love that song that you always play, Sophie, dancing is healing. I always think of that when I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I'm stuck, or like feeling stuck has also led me to have things like irregular periods or like TMI, but like we're getting into it here, like constipation. Because like all of that is like stuck energy. It's like that like that hostile kind of energy. So like the second that I like have a massive cry or do a tapping or like dance, I like get my cycle, I can go to the bathroom, I can like speak coherently again. It's just like, damn, your body has the
I love that.
wisdom.
And it's just like that is just proof of like that's how it works, when you create that shift within your body, that release gets to happen.
And I think it's about like what you guys are saying, like getting out of the mind and into what the body wants. Because I think our body is always giving us signs of like what we need, but our mind like then takes them and changes them. Like sometimes you're feeling so lethargic or so spirally, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down and watch TV. Because in your mind, you're like, I just need to escape. But what your body is saying is like, please just get outside and like go for a walk. Or sometimes you're like, I'm hungry, and like my body will know. Like there's certain things that are really good for me to eat, like carrots or something that are so good for me to eat for my hormones. But it's like, I'll be like, I'm hungry, and I open the fridge, and even though my body's like, I know what I need is like carrots, is electrolytes, are these things. And I'm like, what are comfort foods? You know, what are these comfort foods that aren't actually comforting me? They're comforting like my mind, but they're not actually like the stuff that I need to be like fueling. And I think that's the biggest thing is like maybe like, you know, go with your gut reaction of like, oh, my body immediately told me I needed this and like get out of the mind, or ask your mind to step aside for a second and be like, I feel horrible. Do I need to like cocoon and sleep, or do I need like, and sometimes you will need that, or do I need like a big glass of water and to like sit out in some fresh air and leave my phone inside?
Or
That's
even if
good.
you don't,
Giving,
oh,
sorry,
sorry,
sorry. I was
no,
gonna
go.
say giving yourself options is so good, Maggie. Like that thing of like, do
Yeah.
I need this or this? And like, you will know deep down what it is that you need. And that was a big thing when I was in eating disorder treatment of like, I had to learn how to like refeed myself. I never knew how to eat. So before a meal, I would sit down and I would ask my body, like before cooking, like, what is it that I want? Do I want this or do I want this? And I would just make it plain and simple. And I would start to build like this more intuitive connection with food to the point of after a couple of years of eating in a more like scheduled way, I was able to start being more intuitive with my eating, which is something that can be really challenging when so many of us have grown up around diet culture and like having our minds filled with like, oh, higher calorie foods are bad for you. So right away before you eat a meal, even though your body might be craving fats, and it's like I need some like good avocado, your mind is like, no, I just need to stick to this like salad, or you know. And I mean, people can go in different ways with that, but give yourself
Yeah.
options and see what your
For
body is asking
food,
for. Yeah,
yeah,
for
for
food or for
food or for
anything.
anything, like just starting to like question yourself of like every action you do is like, is this what I need? And you know what? Sometimes the answer will be yes. And it's like, yes, you do need to rest and watch TV, or you do need to do this other thing. But sometimes also you'll realize, oh no. And then you'll
Yeah,
start
sometimes
to
that
get more in
fatigue,
flow.
sometimes it's not like you're tired, it's just like you're not doing things that are actually fueling you. You're not doing things that are actually bringing aliveness to your body, you know? So it's like, do
You've been
you
on screens like all day, like
yeah.
working on screens. Sometimes I'm like, I need to close the laptop. Maybe I want to like watch Netflix after working on my computer all day, but instead I need to close the laptop and like get outside.
Yeah, go outside, go for a walk, like go for a wild swim, do something that's actually going to activate the energy within your body instead of feeling like you are tired. Actually, can you like you're the source of your own energy? Can you bring that energy alive? And something that I've been working with the membership that I'm a part of is and some of the practices, it's about tapping into your body and what is alive within your body, what kind of resistance, what kind of fear is alive within your body, and what desire is actually underneath that, and
That's good.
how can you fulfill that desire. So for instance, if you've got this fear, actually, you know what, I can maybe give you an actual example of this morning. I did a practice where it was like transforming your relationship with money, and I was tapping into like the avoidance style I have on a body level towards money, and what actually is underneath that, and how can I take action from that desire today with my body and with just like the action that I take, instead of feeling like, oh, like I'm avoiding doing this, I'm avoiding doing this, let's just keep avoiding that. How can you actually transform that? Like, and it's communicate with your body what's underneath that, what desire is underneath that, and how can you, and actually liberating that fear by fulfilling that desire. Does that make sense?
Oh, I love that so much. That makes complete sense because I do feel like also like yeah, I like the part where you said like asking what's beneath it. Like once you ask like okay, this is like what my mind is telling me, but the layer underneath is like what you're actually like your intuition, your body is telling you because
And even like
intuition
with
that
the
lives in the
whole,
body.
yeah, even with the whole, like, what does my body need? Like, even if the word need doesn't resonate, like, what does your body deeply desire? Beneath this
Desire.
resistance, beneath this kind of like frustration or this fatigue, like, what's actually underneath that kind of that barrier that wants to like come through and be like liberated through your body so that you can expand into energy, expand into aliveness, expand into your whatever it is, and actually feel that sense of peace in your body, aliveness in your body, clarity within your body.
Yeah. Oh, I've loved this conversation so much. And I feel like it took a lot of different twists and turns, but we arrived right in like the golden nuggets that people need to hear. So, I guess to kind of wrap this up, I would love to just remind you guys, like if you're in a period of your life where things have felt really sticky or stagnant, or you don't know how to navigate days where you're feeling really overwhelmed with what's in your body, I offer you the invitation to begin to connect more with the wisdom of your body. And before you outsource or you grab your phone or you do that thing that is the like initial reaction, can we all just take a moment every single morning to stop and pause and just take a deep breath and ask and just see what arises, maybe do some tapping around your heart space because our heart holds a lot of that emotional wisdom of what we may need. Just tap on your heart space and ask, what is it that my body desires today? What is it that would feel good for my body? And maybe you've woken up and you're really tired or you're really anxious and you just ask that and something comes through. If you do it, I promise over time, the answers will start to arise and you'll start to create that pathway of communication and trust in your body again. So thank you guys for tuning into today's episode. Reminder that our hotline email is going to be below if you could send in your questions or whatever it is that you desire to ask around spirituality, wellness, mindset, just life. We are here to answer away. So drop in your questions and we'll tune in with some answers. See you guys later. Bye.